What is going on, everyone? This is the Standing Room Only podcast, episode number 31, brought to you by Goose and Healy. Another week in the quarantine world. We did get some more sports info this week, so we will go over that, along with the 30 for 30 with Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire. Thanks to everyone that has listened to previous episodes, all the new listeners. We appreciate it. You guys don't follow us on social media, you can follow the SR Only account or the Standing Room Only account, SR Only on Twitter, and is it SR Only Pod?
SR Only Pod.
All right, SR Only Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
We'll get this down one day.
It's been a little bit. And then you can follow our personal pages. For me, it's the Healy6 on Twitter and Instagram. And for Goose?
And then for myself, I am iGoose. That's with 4 O's. Again, as always, don't ask why. Welcome in episode number 31. 31 long weeks, not counting the weeks that we took off due to the emergency with the pandemic, which it's still a pandemic, air quotes. We don't know what's going on with that really.
Mm-hmm.
But as Healy mentioned, there was a 30 for 30, the long gone summer, and it's all about the 1998 season. Let's just get right into it. I mean, I just watched it just a couple of hours ago. I never watch anything the day of. My Sundays are usually pretty busy, even though it's my day off. And for me, it brought back memories. It brought back so many memories. For me, baseball was my sport growing up. Eventually transitioned into more of basketball. Like basketball became my main sport to watch and follow. Don't know why or how that worked, but during those years, I would say baseball was everything. So seeing that, the Mark McGwire Sammy Sosa home run race, it was awesome. It was a great, great memories, and the simple fact that we saw how it ended, right? So what was your thoughts? What were some of your takeaways on the long gone summer, the 30 for 30?
Before I get into my thoughts, if you guys don't already, make sure to download the episode. That's the only way we can see stats with the website we use, and we're trying to track that. So if you guys listen to the podcast and don't download the episodes, make sure to download so that we can get a good track, good feel for how many people listen weekly. And yeah, like I said, that's the only way we can determine how many people listen to our stuff. But going back to the 30 for 30, I thought it was cool. The documentary, from an idea, was awesome. I feel like the execution was pretty poor. I don't know if I'm spoiled from the Last Dance at all.
Yes,
the Last Dance was perfect. The interviews and the storytelling of The Last Dance was so good that I don't know if that's skewing my mind now for other documentaries. This was just a 30 for 30, so it was a one-off episode. But, it was just a lot of highlights, I felt like. There wasn't a lot of great interviews. Yeah, they talked to Mark McGwire for, a majority of it. They talked to Sammy Sosa a little bit. They didn't really talk to a lot of other people. They talked to Kerry Wood for a couple minutes. They also talked to the guy who gave up the record-breaking home run for a couple minutes. But I feel like the execution was pretty poor, and they didn't really do a good job of describing the setting of the record-breaking season. Yeah, they talked to Roger Maris's son and got his view of it, but I don't know. I felt like it could have improved a lot.
I kind of second that. It's the idea of, we just got spoiled with The Last Dance The Last Dance was a documentary versus a 30 for 30. They had to kind of put everything into, 120 minutes of a show versus 10 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for what they could do, And let's not forget, and there's like a pre-story going into the season was baseball wasn't doing so hot. It lost a lot of fans due to the lockout in 94. They came back, the ratings weren't doing too hot. So baseball at that time was that year was the pick me up, the entertainment, I wouldn't even there wasn't really much drama to
Mm-hmm.
it. As there was with like The Last Dance. And I know it's hard to compare the two, but I think I feel the same way as you where you have the great idea of in one of the craziest home run races that included two of the greatest players. I mean, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, who was not really known too much. I mean, Mark McGwire didn't really know much about him. And don't forget about the kid, Ken
Yeah.
Griffey Jr.,
They
who
barely
was
talked about him.
predicted, never talked. They talked about him a little bit, not as much as they should have. For the little bit that they said, they did speak highly of him being pretty much a freak athlete at the time.
Mhm.
Um, like our Mike Trout nowadays, right? Uh, but I do believe that for what they were given for the time frame, I would say it was okay executed. Um, but it was cool to see. It was cool to see Mark McGwire talk about it. I haven't seen Sammy Sosa's face in I don't remember how long. He looks a little different than what he used to.
Yeah.
He has a different hairstyle. And it was kind of cool to hear and hear the perspective of two different players who are technically rivals. There was this is one of the
Yeah.
biggest rivalry in baseball history. The NFC or the NFC, the NL Central Division is always been between Cardinals and somebody. Generally the Cardinals and the Cubs. And
Mm-hmm.
as they mentioned, the Cubs being from Chicago, the bigger city, the bigger brother, St. Louis fans, just saying, you know what? On any given day, we want the Cardinals to win or the Cubs to lose. And I mean, we see that with different sports. I'm sure Mets and Yankees are the same, but it
Bears
was a huge
Packers.
rivalry. And Bears Packers, yeah, yeah. And so it's like, but these two guys were going out there putting on a show, and no matter what happened, they were friends throughout the whole thing, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Um, I think that was and that's the thing about baseball. There's good sportsmanship unless you're a dick and you cheat, which I'm still looking forward to maybe a season we'll talk about later. But that's one of the cool, takeaways that I got from this 30 for 30 documentary. Um, it was kind of circled around the two cities and, you know, one broke the record and won the home run crown. The other one, also was second all time now in home runs and won MVP, even though the
Mm-hmm.
other one, Mark McGwire hit 70 bombs, Sosa hit 66, but then you had Sosa winning MVP. And so there's like controversy there, which I think personally Sosa's numbers were better,
Yeah.
besides four home runs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, especially us being from Chicago. And yeah, granted, I'm a Sox fan, but I mean, Cubs fans are probably the most loyal. They've always packed the house when they would never win. So it was kind of cool seeing, and at the time I was living in the city. I lived in the city until I was like 8 or 9. And so for me, I was in the city and I would go to Cubs games with, my family and, we'd go to both sides, but it was pretty cool because that was the thing because Jordan had just won a championship.
Mm-hmm.
He had just retired. Chicago had nothing going for them. They had Kid K, Kerry Wood, striking out 20 guys in a game. Uh, Sosa coming out of nowhere,
Yeah.
doing this hop that people were like, it's equivalent to a bat flip, but it was more respectable at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a lot of controversy and obviously the steroids, the andro, the over the counter testosterone booster, which obviously is a big no nowadays. So there was a lot that I already knew. There
Yeah.
was some new things, especially from the interviews. These are more recent interviews. But overall, I thought it was an okay documentary, being a 30 for 30 on a baseball season.
Yeah. It was definitely cool. One thing they didn't do was I feel like they could have went over Sammy Sosa a little more. They didn't. They didn't do like talk about why he would kiss his fingers and like touch his chest at all. Yeah, they never went over that. That's a big part of it, and they even showed like Mark McGwire doing that a couple times. Another thing that wasn't great is they had some crowd shots that were from like 2017. There was a couple ones where like you would see Chris Bryant jerseys on people, and you're just like, why are those shots in the documentary? And
Yeah, I think the big thing was like, n- and this is going back over comparing to the Last Dance, right?
Mhm.
Last Dance, the Bulls were like this dynasty, and we're gonna see more come out. There's no way the Bulls are the only one in the vault, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the biggest thing was expectation. The MLB, I don't think really thought anything of it. They were like, well, McGwire just hit 58 home runs last year. Maybe he'll hit 61. But like the fan base wasn't too hot. But I
Mhm.
noticed that too when they showed Wrigley and they showed the huge scoreboard over in right field. And I was like, wait, I don't remember that. That was like 2016 they put that in,
Yeah.
or 2015.
Yeah.
Like that's brand new. So I
Mhm.
noticed that they just had to fill it in. They didn't have enough,
Yeah.
you know,
It wasn't like the
to
Bulls
give you
were
that.
they were guaranteed to film the whole season.
Right, exactly. And I think and I'm sure there's more news clips and whatnot, but it was all the same at some point
Mhm.
with the interviews. They even said it got to the point where Mark McGwire even said, what else are you guys gonna ask? Because it ended up being the same thing over and over and over
Mhm.
again. And then Sosa was the exact opposite. He loved the attention,
Oh yeah.
no matter what it was.
Oh
He loved
yeah.
the attention. He loved getting the crowd on their feet, which both players did, but Sosa did it. He liked to have fun. So I think they did well for targeting. They focused on the long ball,
Mhm.
the main topic of the subject, or the main subject of the episode. So it, it's one of those things where there could be a 30 for 30 as to why Sosa was as great as one of the greatest Chicago athletes. And
Mhm.
really, Chicago doesn't really care for Sosa. Like the
No.
organization does not care for Sosa at all.
No, and Sammy even said it in the documentary. When they showed that Mark McGwire was in the St. Louis Cardinals Hall of Fame, I didn't even know that, because as a Chicago Cubs fan, Sosa isn't even talked about from the Cubs perspective. And once I saw that, I'm like, you guys have to do something. The Cubs have pretty much banished him from being in Cubs existence. They haven't retired his number. He's not in the Chicago Cubs Hall of Fame. Probably because he like left the team in 2004. They like traded him, but the only reason they have not, they want him to admit to taking steroids. He never will. It's just a dumb thing to stand on for like just to not put him in your Hall of Fame or anything. I don't know if they purposely know that he will never like admit to it. So there's like, all right, we're gonna do something like maybe that we know he won't ever do, just so like he won't be in our history because steroids are bad. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't get it. He should be in their Hall of Fame. His number should be retired. Maybe even get a statue for him. I don't know.
Yeah, of him doing his hop
Yeah.
specifically. Uh, it's tough. It's tough. There's other players, but that's MLB is very tough. Like you have Pete Rose, who got caught gambling on a World Series, which keep in mind, he batted like a 4 something, almost a 400 in that series, right? So it's
No,
not
it
like
was him managing.
he was managing that time.
Yeah.
Okay. So he was managing and he was gambling, but like there, the whole gambling aspect kind of goes. Oh, I was thinking of Shoeless Joe,
Yeah.
but the whole gambling aspect goes like for Pete Rose, how can you take away his accolades? Pete Rose has a career number of hits that are 4,000
Hmm.
some odd hits.
Yeah.
that's like untouchable. Ichiro did that in his whole career between Japan and the MLB.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's supposedly he gambled against his team or whatever it was. Don't think he blew the World Series, but like he's one that deserves to be in it. There's other notable players. Obviously, we can talk about the GOAT that was spotted a couple of times in this documentary. One of the GOATs, right? Barry Bonds,
Yeah.
who was smacking home runs and stealing bags and doing everything before this, before
Yeah.
the
He
steroids,
won three
accusation.
MVPs before like we ever know he took steroids. Three MVPs is the most anyone has that's not named Bonds. And he has 7.
That's nuts. I mean, he's literally the best player that we've seen
Mm-hmm.
up until maybe Mike Trout. And okay, you take steroids, you build muscle, you get power, you get strength. Sure, you can pop the ball out of the park. Unless Mark McGwire was doing this since he was in high school, he was a
Yeah.
big boy. He
He
was a
can't
big boy.
he hit like 38 his rookie year
Yeah, he
or
hit.
whatever.
No, it was more than that. I think he was in the 40s. But like regardless, at college, I think he went to SoCal,
49.
right?
49 home runs his rookie year.
His his rookie, that was a rookie record, which eventually got broke. He in college broke a record, and you can see him as a kid, his arms, he's just naturally a big guy
Mm-hmm.
who eventually admitted to it. He swung for the fences every single time. He was a fly ball type
Yeah.
player. He always swung. And that's why he never, when it came down to like the 1998 season, he batted like a 290. He was in the 290s, which
Mm-hmm.
is good. It's not great. He's not batting at 330. Sosa had a better batting average than him.
Yeah.
I just think the whole steroid talk and accusations, it's to keep a player out of the Hall of Fame, it's very tough.
And
Granted, there's some
also, oh,
Mhm.
I was just gonna say that like Mark McGwire said in it, it wasn't like against baseball. They didn't test for it. They didn't like ban people for it at the time. Bud
It was over the
Selig,
counter.
Bug Selig just let it happen too. And he didn't do anything. And then all of a sudden it's made bad in baseball and they're looked down upon when you have had guys take greenies and all this other stuff throughout MLB history. And anyone that did that, it's just thrown to the side. Steroids, though,
Yeah.
that is bad. That is terrible. Even though like it was banned and like tested for after the fact that these guys took it, they're looked down upon.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like you're gonna look down on these guys for, I mean, granted, Mark McGwire did say there's side effects. There's good side effects, there's bad side effects. If you want to take that, we know what the bad side effects are. You can have fun with that as a man.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously he was saying, I came across this. It was some team, somebody on his corner was like, you should do this. This is better for your recovery because he was getting hurt.
As a
And
bodybuilder.
yeah, and it worked. And I mean, obviously, if these guys went back in time, they probably won't do that. But and it's funny because the same people that recommended that for McGwire, he's like, hey, can one of you guys speak on this? And they no comment.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, as you said, the MLB out of nowhere, they backed Mark McGwire. They backed him. And then out of nowhere, they were like, "Oh, this is a big no-no." Now I wonder if it's because it's like the biggest union like in the States, probably in the world, and now it looks bad. Like I don't know what the reasoning is. I mean, it's bad. It is bad. Like nobody should. It's always looked down upon, even in bodybuilding competition.
Mm-hmm.
Most of those guys, I'm sure, take something, right? Some of those super jack guys, but you can't take that away from everybody. We don't know. But there's always just that look that's like, you kind of cheated to get that strength, or you kind of cheated to get that big.
Yeah.
So, but these guys, baseball's a very tough sport. It's not your hand-eye coordination is like so super hyper developed that
Mm-hmm.
you can hit a 99-mile-per-hour fastball. You can, whatever it may be. Barry Bonds and Mark McGwire, these guys were smacking bombs right out the gate.
Yeah.
So unless they knew of this secret from the 80s going into the 90s and 2000s, which I'm sure didn't happen, can't take that away from
Yeah.
what these guys accomplished at
Hmm.
the end of the day.
D. Gordon got caught. He's only hit like 20 home runs in his career.
D. Gordon got caught. Exactly. And there are reasons for it. There's different types. Like Barry Bonds was supposedly a cream when he hurt his leg. It was a
Hmm.
deer. Was his the deer antler? Or was that no, that was Ray Lewis in the NFL. I'm thinking of Ray Lewis got caught. So there's so many different things that we as humans test with and are able to find a way to speed up what is natural or
Hmm.
increase what is natural and that's looked down upon. And sure, is it bad? Is it looked down upon according to some fans? And like, for instance, Sammy Sosa corking his bat, I would look down upon
Yeah.
more than Mark McGwire taking this over the counter drug.
Yeah.
Like, and that's, but even then, Sosa should still have some sort of Hall of Fame within the Cubs community.
Hmm. Yeah. If he doesn't make it in like the baseball one, which will probably not happen because baseball is all about being pure and like the Hall of Fame
Yep.
voters suck. The Hall of Fame voters are just old men. They want to keep the hall small for whatever reason. They don't care what your numbers are unless they're like the greatest of all time. Kind of weird. There's specifications on certain people, but also that steroid era, big part of baseball. Like you can't deny that era of baseball and just throw it off to the side.
Yeah.
Like even if these guys did take steroids and stuff, they were a big portion of baseball, a big portion of the fun times that were had back then before all the steroid stuff came up and it tarnished it in a sense.
And that's the league's fault. The league, that's their fault. There's this list, right? This list out there of allegations against players who took it, which I'm pretty sure Sosa's on that list. You had like Rafael Palmeiro, you had Jose Canseco, who was
A-Rod.
part of the Met. Yeah, A-Rod. There's so many, like you said, D. Gordon, so many players that took it, and it's like, should we disregard the sport all those years? You're not
Mhm.
going to disregard the sport. You made billions of dollars all those years. So the way I look at it, it's fair playing ground. Everybody likes to put a little asterisk next to 73 in the home run column of Barry Bonds. Sure.
And
Um,
762.
yeah, in 762. Um, personally, I don't. I think that he was already putting up numbers and he I don't want to say the steroids did it. I don't
Mhm.
want it to be, oh, he only did it because of the steroids. Because he was a great baseball player. I
Yeah.
mean, look at
Only
his numbers.
player only player in the 400 club and the only player in the 500 club. Stolen bases
That's
and home
stolen
runs.
bases. Yep.
No one comes
Yeah, when
close.
he was great with Pittsburgh before he even went to the Giants. With Pittsburgh, I mean, he was incredible. He wasn't that big. He
Yeah.
wasn't that big with Pittsburgh, but I mean, he was a big guy.
Mhm.
You know, it's and even then, even if well, sure, maybe there were roids going around the time McGwire was playing in Oakland. He had Jose Canseco. Canseco admitted to it.
Yeah.
Jose Canseco was a nut. So maybe there was, but for whatever it is, MLB decided to crack a whip and say, nope, we're gonna stay pure. Nobody can take steroids, which is fine. But before we even had a rule on it, you guys don't count. You can't get
Yeah.
into the hall.
Yeah,
Doesn't
it
make any
was
sense.
wild. Uh fun random fact. Bobby Bonds was 70 home runs away from being in the 400 club. He had
No
332
way.
home runs and 461 stolen bases. So like
Bobby Bonds.
even that, Barry Bonds was a son of a 3-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glove winner, and
That's just great genetics.
he finished third in the MVP twice, fourth in the MVP once. Like, yeah, he was just a beast.
Yeah, so that goes to show too, like a lot of times too with baseball, like there's some families like generations of great genetics. Um, like Vlad Guerrero
Hmm.
Jr. hopefully will be what his dad was. But you know, and you don't want to take anything away from the game because of, I mean, that's like America's sport, pastime sport, right?
Hmm.
So, they didn't have that in the 1900s, early 1900s, in the 20s and stuff. Babe Ruth was fat as shit. He smoked and he drank and he ate a lot and he smacked 60 home runs. So, sure, to say, oh well, he didn't take steroids. Why did these guys have to take steroids? Well, it was a different era. It was a different era.
And they took other things back then, and nobody really gave a shit that they did.
Yeah.
So it's not
Yep.
really documented because it was kind of normal back then.
Yep.
There wasn't much to document. There wasn't just as many eyes on them as there are now. But
Which, speaking of baseball, I'm sure we could transition over to today's baseball. But let's stay on the same subject. What is going on, Healy? What is going on?
so apparently Rob Manfred, I don't know what he's been doing, but a few days ago, or like last week, he was like, there's 100% gonna be baseball. And then a couple days ago, he's like, I'm not 100% there's gonna be baseball. And that, like, was terrible to hear. The main reason he said that, though, is to put fear into the public that there wasn't going to be baseball, and he was trying to pressure the players to finally crack and just do what Rob Manfred wanted. Apparently today, though, there is talks between the MLBPA and Major League Baseball. There's a new proposal sent, so no deal's done, but it seems like they are getting pretty close to like coming up with a deal soon. Over the next couple days, we could see Major League Baseball back because there's a lot of details that came out in this.
The
So
60 game offer,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Apparently now it's 60 games, full prorated salaries. So the players are going to take that like pay cut, but they're going to get paid the same amount per game for that season that they would have in the regular season. They would have expanded playoffs. So we talked about that before in a previous episode. We could talk about it again if they fully agree to this proposal. And it would include waiving of right to grieve the union. I don't know exactly what that means. I would have to look into that more. But I don't think there's a deal right now because the players still want more games, which might happen. We'll have to see. 60 games is a good start, though. Full prorated salary, 60 games. Also, I saw someone report that in 2020 and 2021, there would at least be DH in the NL, which would be great.
I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
This is what they've wanted to, dip their feet in the water, so to speak, to test the waters. Do it now.
Yeah.
It's a shortened season. You don't have to have the pitchers bat. I know some pitchers like to go out and swing and smack bombs, Madison
Mm-hmm.
Bumgarner, whoever else. But let's try something new. Every major sport is doing something new. The NFL, I wouldn't be surprised at this point if they do something new. Even though they think the season's going to start on time, we're probably not going to get a preseason as soon as the beginning of August. It might be later. So everything is going to be
Mm-hmm.
a little rushed at some point. Um, why not make an adjustment? Now is the time. I'm sure the players would be okay with it. And I've been on social media today and we've seen players voicing their opinion. They're said, when and where. Let us play. When and where. That's it. They're ready to go. And as a fan, I've been ready. I've been ready
Mm-hmm.
since April.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good idea. I would like the DH and the NL.
Yeah, it would be great. As an NL fan, I didn't like it originally, but it would be cool to bring it into the NL, especially because now that opens the game for people to sign anywhere. Like being a Cubs fan, hearing like Nelson Cruz becoming a free agent, hearing like who's another older guy, like Chris Davis maybe becoming a free agent. Like he's not older, but like the Athletics one, not the Orioles one. The Athletics, Chris Davis.
Oh, that okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that one.
I don't think the other Chris Davis should really be in the league, but that's a whole nother topic.
Or like, yeah, just like those older home run hitters. As a Cubs fan, hearing them hit free agency, dude, there was no way they could be in the National League. Now that opens up the whole game, and these good teams can get even better. Like the
Yeah.
Dodgers, they can now scoop in for a DH and make that lineup even better.
Yeah, the Dodgers, I'm pretty sure are going to be the number one picked, according to Vegas.
Especially with the DH now.
Especially with the DH, adding another bat, which I'm sure they have guys coming off the bench who can just take that position.
Yeah.
I mean, they probably have, like, no joke, 4 guys that could probably hit 40 home runs on that team, or even 30 home runs at least. I think one of the proposed offers was a longer playoff run too.
Well, it'd be
That's like the rumor.
It'd be the expanded playoffs.
Expanded playoffs. Okay, okay. So I think it'd be worth it. Let the play. I mean, we've said it from the beginning. These guys, they want to play ball. I mean, it's their sport. They're so accustomed year round to not being home. They've been home for so long, and I'm sure they're getting that itch. Obviously, we're seeing it on social media.
Yeah, we saw Mike Trout tweet about it.
Yeah, Trouty did, and then it'll help. It'll help. It'll help grow the business during tough times. The players are going to get paid. Granted, it's going to be prorated for, obviously they're not playing a full season, which is fine. I'm sure they're fine with that. These guys make millions and millions, and the league's going to make money off of it. There's going to be ratings. There's going to be all other types of, and what are they going to be, the only league that just doesn't come back, or make an attempt? So I think they're making strides in the right direction, and I agree with you. I think within the next week we'll have more updates, and I'm sure that they'll sign something.
Yeah, and going back to the 30 for 30, that was weird watching in the beginning when they were talking about the strike. Like, if baseball doesn't come back, it'll be worse than what it was back in 94. Like, the sport could potentially kill itself. But, like, watching the documentary and, like, they were showing clips of people talking about the strike, it was, like, almost the same. It was almost identical. You had guys blaming the owners. You had guys blaming the players. The MLB came out and was like talking about the sides not agreeing to anything. And I was like, is this a 2020 documentary we're watching?
It's literally the same exact thing. Obviously, there's the circumstance involved, but even then, it's the same situation.
Yeah.
Nobody, the union and the players versus the owners, and it's the same story just 16 years later. Which 1994, I'm pretty sure.
26.
Yeah. 26 years later. Wow, my math is off. I wish I was that young again. But that year, 1994 was the there's high hopes for the White Sox that year. Unfortunately, it didn't work.
Yeah. And like even back then, people, I think it was David Letterman. He was like, these guys are millionaires. Like, why are they complaining? And it's the same thing today. They agreed to a contract, on it paid. It's just they both want certain things, and they want it to be perfect in the contract that they're signing.
Both sides want to be spoiled. Yeah.
Yeah, and get as much as they can before they finally disagree on something.
Yep. And that's baseball. I mean, it's one of the highest paid sports, in the States at least. And it always has been that way. I mean, you look at teams with a budget that's, like the Yankees, and you look at other leagues that don't even have that budget, it's nuts, but hopefully they come to even if it's a 60-game season that they're talking of, it's something at this point. Like you said, it could kill the MLB at least for a few years. So it took them until 1998 for something to really pop off. And even then, it was still kind of tough.
Yeah. And going along with sports news, last week we did say we would come back this week with NBA predictions. We are going to push that off until a future date, until it's like 100% what's happening with everything. NBA news, though, they did come out with like the details of where people would stay. Like what happens if a player gets tested, the player will be isolated, make sure it isn't a false report. How often they're going to be tested regularly. Would the league have to halt? It's not spelled out, but it's not, it doesn't look like they would require a suspension of the league because they're all going to be isolated. What happens if a player doesn't want to go? It appears that they don't have to. They won't lose any salary. So at Disney World, these players are going to be in hotels. They're going to be required to wear masks. Players and staff cannot go in each other's rooms. They can't go and hang out with any of their teammates. They're going to have their own chef and food room that's open 24 hours a day. They're all required to wear a Disney Magic Band unless they're playing basketball or working out. They're going to be used as key cards, and they're going to check for coronavirus stuff. They have 3-hour blocks to practice and stuff. The players can use the pools, trails, and golf courses. And what's funny about this, we talked about this a little bit beforehand, but if players want to play ping pong, they cannot do doubles. They can only play one-on-one.
Sorry, Joe Ingles.
No one's allowed to leave campus. What a game day will look like. The players will be able to attend games. There will be probably some noise in there. Will there be guests after the first round? There will be. But it looks like their family can be allowed at some point. And then, players will be tested for drugs.
Yeah, and I think we touched base a little bit on it last week. Obviously, with the newer rules, with what they have access to as far as ping pong, golf, swimming, no doubles, don't get close. Which I mean, that's the only way this will work. Everybody's got to, practice the safety.
Mm-hmm.
I think they did mention that you get tested like twice before each game. So I think it's like right before game time and like the night of, like before, which is good. They're going to test for fevers, which I mean, that's like any employer is doing in the States now to go back into like an office. So I think that they're doing the right things. It may suck. It may not for these players who are stuck at Disney World. It's like they're on a campus, but they can't utilize Disney World the way anybody else would love to when there's no COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, after the first round, as you mentioned, which I would say would be the end of August, beginning of September, would start the second round, and they would allow select family members. Like you probably can bring like 3 to 4 max for each player. They're gonna have enough space in the stadiums for that. Stadiums pack about 25 to 30,000 on a small scale, probably more. So I think they have a good plan. This is same thing with the NHL. There's a good plan that, if followed correctly, and again, this is speaking on if everything goes as planned with everything that's going on in the world with the social injustice and obviously I want what's best. There's two sides right now. There's a battle between what to do, what not to do. Should we do this? Should we not do that? I just want them to come to a conclusion. I personally want whatever's best for both sides. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Hopefully, as a fan, do I want them to play? Yes. But also as a human, I want what's right. So whatever they're going to decide to do, that's awesome. If they end up playing, if they end up deciding to play, I'm going to support it because, well, I love the NBA and I want to see LeBron go at it in a Western Conference. I want to see Giannis end up in the finals, perhaps against maybe LeBron or another tough team in the West, and see if there's going to be a passing of the torch. There's just so much drama that I've been missing with sports, and we may actually end up seeing it. We'll know. It'll be first week of July if it does.
Yeah.
So
And I think that's pretty much it for
yeah,
this week's episode. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure to leave us a rating. Download the episode if you have not already. Give us feedback on social media, how you enjoyed the episode. If you want us to talk about something on the next one, we'll gladly do that. Like, you're the one listening. If you want us to talk about something, we can. We can definitely do that. Just make sure to tweet at us, the Standing Room Only pages, or you could tweet at our personal pages. SR Only Pod for Twitter and Instagram, or for myself, the Healy 6.
Yep. And then my personal is going to be for Instagram is iGoose. Actually, Instagram and Twitter, iGoose with 4 O's. Again, I'm always on social media. If I see something, news, I'll probably comment on it. If you guys have a question, like Healy said, ask us. I love staying interactive, especially during my spare time. If I'm not reading something, or if I'm not, getting on the sticks to game, whatever it may be, or if I'm not busy, I love to talk sports no matter what it is. There's so many, a plethora of ideas and questions, and something from as simple as I think it was on Facebook I became a top fan for the diehard Chicago Bulls page, I guess. And so, like, people are asking me questions on there when I comment. And that's what I want from the listeners, from the viewers, whoever's listening in. Ask away. Ask away. Basketball, football, baseball, those are the three that we talk about the most, that we're up to date with. Yeah, and of course, we'll probably put some polls out and go from there.
Yeah, we will see you guys next week.